So we are going to talk about the security of our websites and security of our instance and in what way we can go and protect our instance from unauthorized access and unauthorized IPs and things like that. So for that reason, first thing that we'll have to do is we'll have to go and get a domain, and we will also, because we want to see it live actually, so we'll go and get a domain, we'll go and get a IP address, then we will go and allocate a machine to that IP address. We will actually go and run our website inside that. So the same way how a website actually works in real time, we are going to go and mimic that scenario. So step one, you go and get an IP address. Step two, you go and get a machine. Step three, you go and encrypt that machine. Step four, you create the backup policy for that machine. Step five, you create the scheduled backups for that machine. So whatever is in the instance is all done. Next step, you go and install your web server inside that machine. Then you go and run your website inside that machine. Now this all is done. Once this complete setup is done, I do have a IP address which is actually pointing to my website at that moment. Now next step, you will have to go and you, because we are working on website, you will also have to do the DNS mapping in that case, in which case we go to our domain provider, we route it via route 53, then we go and my domain name is pointing to the IP address and so on. And after that, I have to ensure that everything is working on HTTPS. And once this entire thing is done, I should have my website up and running, which is encrypted and which is secured. So that's the thing that we are going to do today. So let's get started for that. First of all, step number one was to go and get a IP address. Now, why do I need an IP address? The reason is because if I am working on a website and supposedly my server goes down, in that case, I will have to go and get or buy a new instance. This instance will always point to a specific IP address. And for that reason, I need that IP address to be available with me. So for that, I go to Elastic IPs over here and I will click on allocate Elastic IP and I will go and create over here allocate. Now, if you remember about the global accelerator, so if you go to Elastic IP and you click on create accelerator, the same can be created there also. For now, let's just go and call this as my domain name. So by the way, in the meantime, I will also go and buy a domain so that we can actually see how it looks like. So let me just sign in there. So if you see over here, I do have a domain which I have bought some time back. This domain name is ankitsaxena.live. So this is the domain that I'll point it. So if you see, actually, if I open this website right now, it's not going to show me anything. And we are going to leave it that way only. So this IP address, I will just go and put it a name over here so that I know that this IP address has this name or it is meant for this website. Again, this is not at all necessary. The only reason why we are doing it is because you might be working on multiple websites and multiple servers. In that case, it becomes very confusing for you to understand that what IP is for what server or what IP is going for what service in AWS. In that case, we will need it. So once the IP is done, we will go and create our instance over here. Now let's go for an instance. I can click on launch instance over here and I will take a operating system of my choice, which is Ubuntu 20. So once I take that, I will have to choose the instance type. I'll go and take a T3A small at the moment and next. Storage, I'll go and encrypt it and I'll encrypt it via this key. So this step is important because I'm actually going and encrypting my instance. The volume, I'm taking a GP3 because it's better. Tags, if I want, I can give a tag here also. So let's give it a name. It's for this website and let's call it hyphen instance 1 because this is the first instance over here. Then configure security group and let's create a new security group and let's call it this and let's hyphen put it as security group. And I'll also go and enable port number 80 over here because my website has to work on port number 80. Next, Once it is all done, you can click on launch and you can go and create a new key pair if you want. So let's put it as 06032021 and click on download key pair. Once it is all done, you can click on launch instance and the instance should start to show up to you over here. So that's my instance ID. Though you can also click on view instances over here and see the instance. So yes, I do have an instance which is actually booting up right now. And that instance, if I click over here, has a public IP, which is this. But this IP, actually, if you stop the instance and you start it again, this IP might change. So for that reason, I had created a elastic IP or a public IP earlier. I'll just go and allocate this to my instance. So for that, I click on associate elastic IP address over here. I select my instance over here and I select my private IP over here and I click on associate. Now, if everything is good, this IP 650218.99 should also show up inside my instance. So if you see it is still pointing over there, the reason is we have to refresh it. So earlier the IP was this, but the moment I refresh it, I will see that the IP has actually changed and it is now pointing to this particular IP address. Now that my instance is all up and running, a good way to test that whether it is working or not, you can just copy the IP address, hit this over here, and you will see that nothing is happening right now. The reason for this is the instance that you have right now is just a dummy instance or a dummy machine or a dummy server. It doesn't have anything inside it at the moment. So for that reason, I will go and log into this instance and I will go and install a web server over there. For that, I click on the connect button here. I give the username as Ubuntu, which is the default username for me, and I click on connect. Now, if you ever have a problem in understanding that what instance it is or what username is there are multiple ways to do that. First, you can click on the connect button over here and click on the third one, SSH client. So it will always tell you the username. This actually is the name of your instance and the username is always before at the rate of. So whenever you have to make a connection, if you are making from the browser, AWS will show you over here the default name. Alternatively, you can click on SSH client and it will always be Ubuntu at the rate of IP address. So this is the DNS name or the IP address for me. Okay. So if this all is good, let's go back and we already are connected to the instance which I had done some time back. So let me just go and make a connection with that instance. So first you go and do a sudo apt-get update so that all the dependencies of Ubuntu machine are installed over there. Next step is you go and install Apache 2 also over there. So sudo apt-get install Apache 2. Apache 2 or Apache is the web server. So if I press Y now, I should see Apache web server should be installed for me. So let it happen. Now, if everything is good, if Apache web server is installed, now at this time, if I go and open my IP address over here, I should actually see some things coming up. Now there are two problems with it. First of all, though, it is telling me the IP address, which I don't like. Second thing is over here that it gives me this page, which is a dummy page because this is only a test page to tell you that whether your web server is configured properly or not. Thirdly, on the top, it says not secure. And this is a thing that we actually never want to see because it makes a bad impression on the customer. More important than that, it means that whatever data you are sending to that website is not at all encrypted, means the data is not secure. So I'll have to fix three things. First of all, it should not give this IP address. Rather, it should have given me something like ankitsaxena.live first. Second, it should not point to HTTP. Rather, it should point to HTTPS. Third, I should go and change this content over here. So let's start with the easiest thing at the moment. If I have to just go and change the content of it, it is already telling me that you should replace this file, which is located inside this folder by the file name of index.html. So what I will do is I will just go and log into this folder and go to this particular location and just go and copy my HTML content over there. For that, I go back to my EC2 instance. I click on the connect button over here. Again, EC2 instance connect and click on the connect button. Now over here, what I have to do is I have to go back and copy my content, website content over there. Now there are multiple ways of copying the website content. You can either do it via S3, or in my case, I will go and open the repository that I have. So you can also take it from here if you want. Just search for the repository and alike. Click there and then search for the repository named as personal website. You are free to choose any template which you want if you have it. So let's make it personal website. Click there. And now just click on this green button and click on this command over here, clone. So now what I will do is I will just go and copy this inside my instance by typing git clone and that address. And if everything is good, I should see this particular folder being created, personal website. So let's type on the ls button. I see that folder, personal website, and go and type this. And now I do have the files, whatever is required by me at this very instance. So the files are these particular files over here. Okay, this and this and this. Now the job that is left for me is to copy the content of that folder inside this particular folder. So for that, what I will do is I will run the command which is sudo cp -r star /var/www/html. And if everything is good, actually now you also might want to know what all the commands I ran. So you can have a look. First command I ran was sudo apt-get update. Second command I ran was sudo apt-get install Apache 2. Third, I did a clone. Then I went inside my particular folder. And finally I did this sudo cp -r, copy everything to var www and html. So these are the things that I had done, these 5 commands actually. Okay, now anyhow, if this is all good, if I go back to my instance at this point of time and I open the IP address of that instance, my first problem should be resolved, wherein the website should give me a proper look and feel. So I see over here it tells me something. I click over here, I click on the contact button over here, and I do see a template coming up over here. Okay, so this is what we wanted to do for the first part. Now it still says not secure. That is fine, we have to still work a lot on that. So till here, if you do everything properly, you do have an instance which has the website template installed inside it. Is a expensive operation. So DNS replication is difficult and it takes time also. So for that reason alone, DNS replication, just remember, whenever you are working at the DNS level or inside the Route 53 services, it might take unrealistic time in updating. For some of you, it might happen in 5 minutes. For others, it might happen in 1 day and so on. So just be patient when you are working on that. Before we start, I had my domain which was ankisaxena.live over here, right? So if I try to open this domain over here, it will not give me anything. It says not secure and it says sparked courtesy of GoDaddy.com, and I see all these things over there. Now, the reason why it is doing like that is because inside my DNS, this A record you see is pointing to the parked value. So instead of pointing to the parked value, I will go and point it to my IP address. And what IP address? My instance IP address. And what is my instance IP address? It is this. So now what I will do is I will just go and change it to this. And I click on save. Now ideally, if anyone is trying to open this particular website over here, for instance, if anyone is trying to do this, it is still saying this. And the reason for that is DNS propagation takes time in propagating. Please keep that in mind. In some time, actually, we will see in approximately 10 to 15 minutes, we will see that my website is indeed pointing to that DNS name. So there is one more way, by the way, to figure that out if it is working or not. So for that, just open your command prompt and type ping and the name of your address. What is it pointing to right now? 34.102.136.180. Where is my website supposed to point? 65.0.218.99. How can I confirm? Go to your DNS settings and you see over here. What does it point? 65.0.218.99. So that is one of the reason why your website is still not working, and it might take some time to test out a website. Generally, if you're working on broadband, it takes more time in updating. Same thing if you do with your mobile data, it might take less time in updating that. So let's leave it over here. In the meantime, we have a lot to do. So this, ideally my website should have pointed there. If it is not pointing, no worries. We can go and switch with the next part, which is my Route 53. So Route 53 is for the domain name registration part. So in this case, what I will do, I will go and map my website to this particular Route 53, because the routing has to be done via my AWS account and not via default GoDaddy account or any provider, whatever you have taken. Also remember, Route 53 is a global service. So for that reason, I go to DNS management. I click on create hosted zone over here. I give the domain name, whatever my domain name was, which is over here. And description, you can say, I can say hosted zone for this, and click on create hosted zone. Now, the moment you create a hosted zone, it doesn't mean that everything is done. You still have to do one very big configuration. So to help you in understanding that, let me do this. We'll have both the things side by side here. Okay. So now what you have to do is that this name servers, which stands for NS, you will have to point the NS of AWS over here, NS of your website. So for that reason, you click on change over here. GoDaddy will prompt you that are you sure, or whosoever domain provider you have done, are you sure you want to do that? Click yes, enter my name server and start entering the values. First value is this, enter that, remove the dot in the end. Second value is this, enter that, remove the end in the end. Third value is this, so click on add name servers and add name servers, give the third value. And fourth is this, go here and remove this. Now you click on save over here. Once it is all saved, you might get a confirmation box. Click on yes, I consent to update the name servers and click on continue. Now actually it means that your website is being governed by Route 53. The owner of this website still happens to be GoDaddy only. However, how the website is mapping, where is it pointing to, all those things are done by your AWS Route 53. To confirm if everything is good, right now you still see the value. Just go and refresh the page by pressing Control R or Command R. Just refresh the page once and GoDaddy will tell you in some time that this name servers or this website is not being managed by GoDaddy, rather it is being managed by Route 53. So you might see errors like this in website actually, that's fine. So let's just go down here. Let me just refresh the page once. So if everything is good, you should see certain things like this. Records, we can't display your DNS information because your name servers aren't managed by us. So in this case, it is telling that, okay, now this thing is not being managed by them, rather it is being managed by Route 53. If you want, you can again go and ping and you can see that it is still pointing to 34.102.136.180. And the reason for that is this updation will again take some time. But in the meantime, let's go and do one thing inside our Route 53, and that is go and click on create record over here and go and add the same thing. So you have to point it to IP address and go and give that IP address here also. And this, you say that it has to be updated every 60 seconds. It can be anywhere from 60 seconds to 172800. And these values are already live as of now. Click on create record. Now, if everything is good, your website in some time, which is this website, if you open here, it should actually point to that servers, and that servers should respond back to you telling that this is the IP address. We will go back over there in some time. Before that, let's go and sort out a few other things also. Before we go over there, inside AWS, you have something known as KMS or Key Management Service. This thing is there because we want to go and secure our account. So you can go on KMS, and in this case you can go and create your own key. So KMS is a service by which the data which is being used in AWS at the moment, this data can be encrypted. Please remember, this can be encrypted via the key and it can also be decrypted via the key. You can go and create your own key. So now instead of using AWS key, we'll just go and do it via our own key. For that reason, you can click on create a key. Now it can be a symmetric key or asymmetric key. Let's choose this key. If you want, you can go and give KMS, or it can be an external key, which you can do, or it can be taken from Cloud HSM, depends on you. So right now select KMS over here, click on next, give a name over here. Let's put the name as the domain name itself. So, or let's say key -1, and let's say first key for encryption, and next. Now in this case, if you have your multiple users, you can make any one of them the owner of this key. If you make them the owners, then in that case they can also go and access this key and they can go and delete it. Next, if you want, you can go and give access who can use this for any of the users that you have or the roles that you have, or else it can be used by any other AWS account also. So if you click on next over here, it will tell you that this key is there on any KMS and on any resource it can be done, and click on finish. Now this key 1 can be used to either encrypt or decrypt. Okay, so if this is all good over here, the key is all available. Let's go back to our EC2 instance. And I do have an instance or a server which is running at this moment. This server is this particular web server what I had created earlier. I have the server over here. I can also choose to go to volumes. Volume is nothing but the storage or the SSDs. So I can click on volumes, and I do have the volume with me, which is over here. This volume, if you remember, was already encrypted when I was doing it. So that's the key alias, which is used for encryption. That's the key ID for you, and the key ARN is this. So that volume was already encrypted anyhow. Though if you want to create a new volume, you can do that. Let's say I am selecting a GP2 volume of 10 GB over here, and I choose to encrypt the volume, and the key over here will be now my key, which is key -1. Okay, so if I go and create a volume like this, I again have the same volume, but remember this key is encrypted by your key. So to check that, refresh, have a look at this volume which is encrypted via AWS or EBS key, and let's have a look at the second volume which is encrypted by our own key. So this is very important during the security of your services in AWS, that your key can be used to encrypt anything inside AWS. Please remember, again, it's not important that you take the key from AWS. You can go and create your own key. By that logic, you can go and encrypt it from here also. For now, let me just go and remove this volume because I don't need it. And let me show you another way to launch an instance. So if you go to instances or creating your web server, and you click on launch instance at this moment, and let's say that you are selecting Ubuntu 20, and the thing I'm interested on is the storage part. So instance detail storage. In this case, if you want to encrypt, again, you see the same key over there. Okay. So either you can encrypt it with the default key, or you can go and encrypt it with this key. It's the same thing only. Means in this way, the encryption will happen always. Whether whatever key you take, the key can be used to encrypt my particular volume. So we do understand that I can encrypt a key with our instance and it can be used at the volume level. What if I want to go and create a bucket inside S3? So this part during S3, when we had done, we had talked about S3, and we had talked about we can create a bucket and we can encrypt the data inside the bucket. So let's go and have a look at it again. So in this key, you are blocking all the public access. Default encryption over here, if you choose enable, it can be from KMS, or you can choose from your key, in which key you will again see your key one over here. So the advantage of KMS is that you can work on any service inside AWS now, and from wherever encryption is required, you can go and select that key. So it can either be a S3 key in itself, or you can go and select your key and you can choose from your key, and the key will be visible to you over here. Remember that the key is available at a regional level. Okay, so you have it as AP-South1, whatever is the ARN ID of that particular key that you have created. Okay, so this way you can also go and create the key inside your S3 buckets if you want. Let's go back to our website and let's go to the instance over here, and it is still pointing to the old one only, so let it happen. It's going to take some time. In the meantime, the next concept is that if at all I have to secure the content of my website, how to secure the content? There are many ways. First, let's talk about the encryption. So whenever you encrypt the data is encrypted in two ways. First, you have data in transit, and second, you have data at rest. Data at rest means the data inside your hard disk or inside your volume at that very moment. So how to encrypt that? That I have already done also. I have an instance which is pointing over here, and the data is saved inside my volume. This is the volume, and I see that the encryption is already done. Now, by that logic, you can encrypt it via the key from AWS also, or you can go and create your own key also. By that same logic, if you want to go and encrypt the data in S3, you can do that also. So there are three ways by which I can go and encrypt my data inside AWS. Okay, so there are many more ways, but for now I know these things by which I can go and encrypt my data. This data is known as encryption at rest. The data when it is inside AWS is encrypted. But what if the data has to be encrypted while the data is moving between various servers? What do I mean by that? For that, open any console. Let's say HTTPS over here. AWS is working on HTTPS. Click on this lock icon. It tells certificate, and the data is being encrypted and authenticated via this certificate. So that is how you know that the data is being encrypted and it says the website is secure or the connection is secure. How? Because of the certificate. So the same certificate or the same thing, if you have to do inside your AWS for your website, what you have to do is to go and create your own key, which you have already done. But how to do it for my website or my web server? That is your certificate. How do you go and create your own certificate over here where it will show your website? So for that thing, we will have to go inside the service of AWS known as Certificate Manager. You can either type Certificate Manager or the word is ACM, Amazon Certificate Manager. You can just click on that Certificate Manager, and now you will go and get a certificate for whatever service you are using. So let's say I have to select the certificate over here. I click on Provision Certificate, Get Started, Request a Public Certificate here, and here you will have to give your domain name. So my domain name is this. Second, you can also put, it can also be www dot your domain name. So in that case, it can be star dot this particular thing, your domain name. Okay, if you also want, you can make it for www dot this. Okay, anyhow, star would have covered it, but that's fine. So this is the domain name, and you click on next over here. Now you have two options. Either you need the DNS validation or the email validation. Email validation happens at 5 address. So if my website name is ankitsaxena.live, I will get the email at administrator at domain name, admin, webmaster, hostmaster, and postmaster. So these are the certificates, or these are the way by which you can authenticate that. If you don't want that, you can also go for DNS validation. In which case I have already routed my website to Route 53. So I know AWS will automatically do it for me. To test it out, click on DNS validation, click on next. click on review, click on confirm and request, and at this step AWS will tell you that you have to go and do these entries. Now if at all it is already inside route 53, you don't have to worry. You will see a button over there which will say create record in route 53. Once you click this, AWS will straight away go and create it for you. Success. Create record in route 53, create. That should be success. Create a record in route 53 and create. And that should be success. Now if everything is good for you, this certificate should be created for you. So right now if you see, two things are already done. Now this thing is taking time because this and this are the same thing, but that is fine. It is going to go and come back in some time. So that is what we said in the beginning. Just remember that this can take time. So now actually all of them are success while we were speaking. And now if you refresh this button, it should say successful in some time. Very shortly it should do that, okay? Or press the Control R button or reload the page. And the certificate should be issued to you in some time. Now this certificate is important because this is where my encryption will come into place. So we will come back to ACM in some time. Before that, let's go to EC2 because we had already talked about the security, how to give security to data at transit by HTTPS, which we are still doing, how to give security or encryption for the data at rest via using the keys that I have done. And those keys are the keys by your KMS, which you already have over here, which is inside your instances. And then if you go inside your volumes, you will see the keys over there also, which is the KMS key. Now, by the way, if you want to create the automated backups for better security of your instance, you can do that also. How? For that, go to your lifecycle. Okay, first of all, let's say how to take a backup of the data. For that, you can click on actions. You can click on create snapshot. You can give a description. Let's say backup and create snapshot and close, and you will see that the backup of your volume has been created. That can be seen by going into snapshots. It will take some time, but it's going to come back very shortly. Now if you want to take the automated backups, this is important because taking a backup is easy by this, but what if you want to even encrypt the backup? Because backup, again, remember, the backup is the data which is there inside your AWS account. But whatever is inside AWS, you will always want to encrypt that. So how to do that? For that, let's go first of all and create an automated policy so that it will go and automatically create a backup every 6 hours. For that, description, let's say backup every 6 hours. And where to create the backup? Wherever the name matches my website, and my website name is this. Then role, and I want a backup every 6 hours. And you say that you need a daily backup or a hourly backup or a custom backup, whatever, every 6 hours. Now if it has to start in the night at 12, make it 18:30 because remember this time is in UTC, and you want to retain the backup. So if you create a backup every 6 hours, by the end of the month you have 120 backups. So 4 into 30, 120 backups, and by the end of the year you have 1440 backups, which becomes bad. So let's say I just want to go and save the last 10 backups. Now, interesting thing, let's do over here. Whenever I am going for my backup, the data has to be kept inside AWS, and it has to be kept across various regions inside AWS if you want. In this case, what you can do is I am saying that I will be putting the data inside my, let's say, if I am in India, I'll also want to put the data in, let's say, USA. But if I am putting data in USA, it should automatically be kept for, let's say, 10 days. And important thing, the data should also be in such a way so that the data is actually encrypted. So how to encrypt it? Via whatever keys I have. Now remember this, that the keys over here are the keys which are for that particular region. Okay, so if in case I select over here Mumbai, I will see my key one also. So this thing is very important to note. If I select over here Cape Town, I don't see the key. I only see AWS/EBS. And the reason for that is Cape Town does not have my key. Stockholm does not have my key. Paris does not have my key because keys are region specific thing. The moment I select Mumbai over here, I see two options, my key one and this. So which means that if in case you have to go and copy the data across multiple regions, point number one will be to ensure that those target regions also have the key which you have to use in the first place. Please keep this in mind, or else encryption is not going to work. Okay, now if this thing is understood, I can anyhow go and create the backups automatically for 6 hours or whatever duration I want. By that same logic, if I want to create a snapshot, I can go and create a snapshot like I have it over here at the moment. So this snapshot would be done. The moment it is done, we can go and delete it. Or if you want, you can retain it for later use. Now, first of all, let's go and see if the website is still done and is still pointing to the old one. Very good. Fine. Going back, this is how you can encrypt the data at rest. By that same logic, if I have to do it in transit, for that, let's take help of Route 53. I do have Route 53 and I have my hosted zone over here, which is my particular domain name. Also, I had created a certificate which was created inside the service known as ACM or Amazon Certificate Manager. So I click on Certificate Manager here, and I had created a certificate for me. So please remember, if you have patience, just wait for some time, and in some time you will see that the certificate is issued to you. Now, where to actually use this certificate? It can be used at two places. First, it can be used inside your CloudFront distribution. Second, it can be used directly inside your load balancer. What are these two things? Let's go and talk about that first of all. So a load balancer, simply put, is going to distribute the load of your machine to one or more resources. If you only have one resource, in that case, whatever data you have is all going inside that instance only. The instance can reach the peak performance of 100%, maybe 200%. The instance is performing more than it is meant or designed. In that case, people will complain that your website is a bit slow. And if they say it's a bit slow, your thing is that you will have to go and do the scaling. Scaling can be in two ways, vertical and horizontal. Please remember, at this point, you will have to encrypt all the instances still. So if you scale up vertical, it means from 2 CPU, 2 GB RAM, I can go to 4 CPU, 4 GB RAM, maybe 8 CPU, 8 GB RAM, maybe 16 CPU, 16 GB RAM. But there is a maximum limit for what you can reach. After that, you cannot scale up your instance vertically. Rather, one person is making the house in 10 hours, two people will make it in 5 hours, and four people will make it in 2.5 hours, and 10 people will make it in 1 hour. Let's apply the same concept over here, which is known as horizontal scaling. So the same way as I have my machine which is working over here, the same way I will go and create another machine, and that machine will replicate this machine in all ways. So I will have two machines over here, and I will go and distribute the data across two of these machines over here. Now there are two ways of doing this thing. First, go and launch a new machine and do it from there. Alternatively, take a backup of this complete machine, and from backup of this machine, go and create a new machine. So let's try that. For that, you can click on actions, click on image and template, and click on create image. At this moment, let's call it as web server -ami or backup -1, and you can give a description. This is the backup instance bracket web server. And if all is good, you can go and name it and click on create image. Remember one thing, that the moment you create your image, your instance might reboot. So anyhow, if the image is done in some time, you will see that your AMI will start to show up, or your backup of the instance will start to show up over here. Right now it is into pending state, and that is perfectly fine. Let it be like that. Let's just wait for this thing to happen. At this time, you should actually see it available. So it's now available, and from this instance itself, let's go and create a new instance. So for that, click on launch over here, and let's select the instance type again. So let's this time take a T3 small itself again. Review and launch. One important thing, because this is a web server, you will also want to go and either go and select the previous one that you had created, or you can create a new one. Just enable port number 80, or else your website won't be visible. So this part, and click on review and launch, and then click on launch, and click on launch instance. Now, if everything is good, just click on view instances over here, and you should see two instances actually coming up now. So one which you had already created some time back, and this instance should be coming up in some time. To confirm that everything is good, just go copy the address and paste it over here. And you should see the content of your website also being loaded up over here. Let it happen while the time it is loading up. So let's call this instance as instance -2. Instance 2 over here, and by that same logic, the volume, let's go and make it as 2 over there, because so that we are not confused ourselves. So I have a machine 1, I have a machine 2, and I have an instance 1, and I do have an instance 2. So now if you go and the machine is all up and running, you should see the same website over here, which is for this IP 13.235.210.35, and the same thing you have over here also for this IP, which is over here. So till now, I know that I can go and create a machine or a server or a instance, whatever you want to call it, and I can go and replicate it in whatever ways I want. So it can be using a AMI, it can be using a snapshot, in which case I can encrypt it via the KMS keys. Now, the thing is that I will also have to go and add it to a load balancer. And why will I need to add it to a load balancer? So that whatever data is flowing inside my load balancer, it can go and send it either to machine 1 or to machine 2. So the important thing that I have to do at this moment is mapping that thing to my load balancer. Before that, let's have a look. Both of my machines happen to exist in one C only, and that is fine. Now, before we go any further, there are two things first that you have to pay attention to. Either you can go and create a load balancer. So a load balancer is of three types. You can have a ALB or application load balancer. You can have a NLB, or you can have a classic load balancer. You are free to choose any of them. Now, if you are on website, you might want to go for a ALB or application load balancer. If you are on a, let's say not on a website, it's not on 80 or some specific code, you might want to go on a NLB, or you can even go on a CLB or a classic load balancer. So right now, you can choose anyone. Let me just go and choose a CLB over here, and let me call this web server as web server hyphen website. And this has to work on both 80 and my 443, because that is what it is. But so over here, let's make it over here HTTP, or you can say TCP, and that also has to map on 80. So my website in this case will work both on 80 and 443. Next, assign security groups. You can choose a security group which I had already created, so you can take this security group also. Okay, or if you want, you can create a new security group over here. So let's call it like CLB hyphen web server, where I am saying port number 80 is enabled and 443 is enabled, both of them. So this and this. Next, you will have to choose a certificate. The certificate, if you remember, we already had created inside our ACM. So it will directly show up over here. Okay. Next, configure health check, whatever the health checks you have. So let's make it 2 and 2 over here. And I want my health check to be 5 and 10. Next, add the EC2 instances. I am adding both the instances to my machine. Tags, review and create it. Now by this time, if everything is done properly, you should see your website actually coming up over here, which can also be seen by here. If you go and open this particular address, you should see your website coming up, though you won't see it straight away. The reason is, if you add a load balancer, it generally takes some time for the load balancer to actually come up. That you could have seen from here also, status where it says 0 of 2 instances in service. That you could have seen from instances also where it says out of service right now. So let's just wait for a few seconds, and approximately a minute or something, and then we should see our web server actually coming up after it goes into in service. So let's just wait for that much time. By this time it should be up and running. Let's have a look. It says in service, fair enough. Let's go to description, copy the DNS name over here and paste it over here, and then I should see my website actually coming up. Now it is either going inside one or two, but still it says over here not secure. That is what we want to remove. We will do that in some time. But before that, let's open this particular thing and give this, and you are going to see a very interesting error over here. And there's a reason for that. The reason is you are saying that your website over here, this particular website, the certificate, okay, let's go back over here and talk about ACM first of all. When you went inside your ACM, the certificate that you happened to create then was for this website, ankesaxena.live. But what is the domain that you are opening? something.apsouth1.elp.amazonaws.com. You have created the website for a different domain, and you are trying to attach that certificate to a different domain. So if you see, it is telling you also that this website over here is for this particular address. However, when you are opening it on HTTPS, it is trying to do this, which means that there is a problem. It's the same thing. You take your friend's card and you are trying to give your PIN on it and you expect it to work. It's not going to work that way. Okay, so that's the reason why over here it gives you this error. There are multiple ways of fixing it. We are going to see that now. Before that, first of all, because we are on a classic load balancer, let's see how to fix it via classic load balancer. So let's go back to our route 53 where the complete mapping was happening. So if you go to your route 53 in this case, what you will have to do is instead of pointing it over to this thing, you will just do it like this. So let's say DNS management and go to your hosted zone here and click on your website over here, which was this. So that's your domain name over here. You can either click on edit record, in which case you can skip the alias over there. You can say route the traffic to our actual accelerator. Classic load balancer. The region in this case is Mumbai, and you choose the load balancer. It is telling you that this is the load balancer, and you click on save. Now in some time, if someone is trying to open ankesaxena.live over here, this particular website will show up the data. So right now it is still doing that. The reason for that is it is still pointing to your previous one only. That you can also see from here. So over here, what is the time right now? 13/2/34/99.168. So let's go back over here and give this address 13/2/34/99.168. So over here, this particular website is now pointing to the correct thing. However, this is the second entry that we had done at that point of time. Okay, so that's the reason why it gives you an error like that. So we had done three things actually. First, we pointed it to your normal GoDaddy account. Second, we pointed it to a specific IP address. That was this particular IP address over here. Third, we had gone and pointed it to our instance. So it is still back. It is into our second thing only. So that's the reason why it is still pointing to that particular domain, and that doesn't exist only as of now. So there are multiple ways to fix it. First of all, what you can do is if you go and open this particular website, you see over here, it opens up your proper website, which is what we wanted to see. More interesting than that, if you open your website on HTTPS actually, so let's remove this and put HTTPS over here. It will point to your website. So these were the three things that we told we had to do. First, I want to see proper content done. Second, I don't want to see the IP address. Now I see my domain name only. Third, I want to see this lock icon. So if I click on the lock icon and I click on certificate, it is telling me that indeed the certificate has been issued. And this, by the way, is what you can do with your website or data in transit, which means the data which is being sent by you and between you and AWS is all encrypted. This is what we mean by encryption in transit. So now actually you won't see that error and your website is all working pretty good. But then there are other ways to do that. Let's go and explore those also. So there are multiple ways of actually going and creating a load balancer, and there might be a scenario in which I say that what if this load balancer itself goes down, though that is not possible because your load balancers are maintained by AWS. So it's not possible that the load balancer actually goes down, but in the unlikely scenario that it actually goes down, what do we do? In that case, you can take help of something known as a global accelerator. Let's get started with that. For that, the concept is straightforward. You can again go to a load balancer only. Click on create a load balancer. This time choose a application load balancer. Click on create over here. Tell that you want both HTTP and HTTPS. That is fine. It has to be inside this particular subnets, whatever you give, and give a name over here. So let's call it ALB-website here. Then go and just select this accelerator to get a static IP address. So in this case, accelerator, let's say over here, website hyphen global accelerator. So GLA. Okay. So I do have my load balancer. I have it on HTTP, HTTPS. I have it across these subnets. I have a global accelerator. Next, go to security. Again, it's pretty easy. You can either upload a certificate to ACM, or you can go and directly choose a certificate from ACM. Now, that's the advantage that I get if I go and create my certificates inside ACM itself. It is directly doing that over here. Okay. Next, go to security groups, and you are free to choose any security group. So if you remember, we had already done this. If you want, you can go and create your own security group. AWS is automatically understand because it is on 80 and 443. So these are the things. Fair enough. Next, click on configure routing over here. In this case, select a target group. So let's say this is ALB-target group 1, which is working. Instances are on port number 80. Next, targets, go and select both the instances. Click on add to registered and review and click on create. Now, if everything is done, your load balancer should also come up. And if you point to the DNS name of load balancer, it should again show you the same instances, though right now it won't happen. You might have already guessed the reason behind that. And the reason is that it is going to take some time for the load balancer to add these instances to the load balancer and the load balancer to come up in general also. That could have been seen by here itself. The status was provisioning and not active. That is why the load balancer is still not active. The moment it goes into your active state is when you will see your load balancer actually working. Now, this can also be seen by going to your listener tabs and click over here inside your target group, and these target group would still be in pending state. So you see the target registration is in progress. So this load balancer will take some time to go and add these instances, and that's why the status is initial. Let it remain over here. We are going to come back to this in some time after it goes into active state. So I click on load balancer, it's into provisioning state. Let it be like that. We are going to see in approximately 2 minutes. So let's just wait for that. Let's see if it is done. Refresh the page and it says active, which means now at this point of time, if I copy this DNS name and I just paste it over here as it is, I should see my website coming up. Okay. By that logic, if you go for HTTPS colon this, it should again give you the error, and you might have understood the error for that. The reason is you have created the certificate for this domain and you're trying to open Amazon AWS.com. So let's go and fix that first of all. Now, fortunately, because you already have your Route 53 in picture, you don't have to do much. In real life, without Route 53, it would have been very difficult. Click there, just click on edit record, say that I want to point to an application or a classic load balancer. The region happens to be in Mumbai. So that's Mumbai. And then the load balancer, I have two load balancers over here, this one or this one. Now, if at all you are confused, just see this, it is ALB and this is your web server. So go for ALB over there and click on save, which means now from external person's perspective, they are not going to find much of a difference. The reason for that is they still see the website coming up like that only. So it can open up like this also, and it can open up on this also, both HTTP and HTTPS. So from their perspective, they won't see, if they open it over here, it says not secure. If they open it on HTTPS over here, they see it's secure. So from their perspective, they don't see any difference actually coming up. But we know that we have changed from a CLB to a ALB, and that's the whole point when we talk about deployments. When we say that the end customer shouldn't even be aware that a change actually ever happened, this is what we mean by zero time deployment. And remember, the entire data throughout this is all encrypted, both in transit via HTTPS and at rest via EBS. So first, entire data is encrypted. Second, entire data is being transmitted securely over the internet, and we don't have any downtime also. This is what we want to do. Let's go and make it even better. So I do have my Route 53, which is pointing over here, but what if the load balancer of a region itself goes down? So if you remember, at this point of time, we had gone and created something as a global accelerator while going and creating the application load balancer. Global accelerator, by the name itself, works at a global level, and it only works in US West 2 or Oregon. That's the reason why, even though my instance is in AP South 1 or Mumbai, my certificates are in AP South 1 or Mumbai, global accelerator itself only works in Oregon. By that logic, if you see the IPs over here, which is this IP, either you hit the IP, you see your website. Either you, okay, let's just keep it open so that you can see that. Second, if you see this IP, still you see that website. And finally, if you go to your DNS name over here and you hit the DNS name, still you see the website. Remember was one thing, that this is globalaccelerator.com. So now again, so this is working, this is working, and this is working, and my global accelerator in itself is also working, which will make sure that even if the accelerator or if the load balancers are down for a region, it will go to the next region, whatever you have configured. That can be done by going over here and clicking on add listener. The endpoint group is AP South 1. Just click on add listener. You can give the port number, which is 80, and if you want, you can go and give other port numbers also, like 443 and so on. Okay, so in this case, because you have it on 80, you don't have to do anything because it is already pointing to Mumbai. But if you want, you can go and for this listener ID over here, you can go and add the endpoint groups over here. Okay, so the same thing, endpoint region, let's say in North Virginia also I am doing. So in this case, remember that you will have to have the instances both in North Virginia as well as in Mumbai. So that way you can ensure that if Mumbai goes down, the region is still up in North Virginia. But let's go back to our Route 53 and do another thing. If you click over here and you click on edit record over here, here you will see it is pointing to a global accelerator also. You can click there. The region anyhow selected is Oregon, which we understand, and you can choose your accelerator and click on save. Now what is going to happen is, if anyone tries to open your website over here, it will actually open your global accelerator. Either if they hit this or they hit this. Any one of them, whatever they open, they are going to see global accelerator website. And that is what we mean if we create a deployment which is across multiple geographies. Please, one final time, remember that if you are putting the instance over there, you will also have to go and secure it, and then security will happen over EBS, and EBS has to be encrypted. This has to happen. So you do have the website which is up and running till here. So this here we have utilized multiple concepts. We have utilized our ACM. Okay, first of all, the instance where we encrypted. So first of all, the KMS or the key management service for encryption, EC2, which encrypted my volume, ACM, which created my certificate for in transit, then my load balancer, which was using my certificate, then my global accelerator, which is pointing the traffic. So entire thing is all secured with zero downtime. And if I also want, I can replicate the data from one place or one region to the next region also. This is what is meant by security in AWS. And right now we have not used any external service of AWS. We are all working inside AWS security itself. Now let's go and do it in one other way also. So till now, if everything is done till here, we might also want to add even more security, by which I mean if someone is trying to go and open my website on HTTP, I don't want that also to happen. So let's go back to our old friend CloudFront and create a CDN or a content delivery network. So let's go here and okay, first of all, delete the previous entry that was there and click on create distribution. Get started. Origin name is all these things along with the load balancer you see already will show up over here. So that's my load balancer, ALB or application load balancer. Here, if I want redirect HTTP to HTTPS and all the edge locations, certificate is my certificate, which is for this, which brings us to an issue. And that issue is this is only taking certificate for this, but I don't have the certificate over there. The reason for that is you need to have the certificate in North Virginia. So you cannot go and just create a CloudFront distribution like that. So first let's go and redo the same thing. Let's go to our certificate manager. And this time we are going to actually create it in not Oregon, but US East one. So let's go and create the certificate here also. For that provision certificate, request a certificate, go and give your certificate by here, then give your domain name, this, and let's also put it for star dot this. If you want also www.this. Okay, click on next, DNS validation, click on next, review and confirm and request. Now if everything is good, AWS should automatically tell you to go and enter the details over here. Create records in Route 53. The validation happened successfully. And then this is already done and click on continue. You will see that this part actually will happen way faster than the previous one, because now the entire thing has automatically moved to Route 53. And once first time, because we were moving from GoDaddy to Route 53, so it took time. Next time, whatever you have to do in DNS will happen way faster than you can think of. The reason is now it is all managed by my Route 53 itself. By the way, now if we go to our CloudFront, and create distribution and click on get started, click here, let it all load up. So just remember, for some time just keep it like that, because if multiple things are there, it will all take time in loading up. So let it be like that. And then your load balancer here, then You can give the domain name, which means just give your alternate domain name, which your domain name is this. Then custom SSL certificate, and at this point of time you will start to see your certificate. Now click over here and also go and say that redirect HTTP to HTTPS. This thing is important so that if anyone tries to open your website, they will redirect HTTP to HTTPS automatically. And click on create distribution. Now in some time, if someone tries to open this particular domain, it should point to your website. Now again, the same old thing that it cannot be reached right now, and you might have started to notice the pattern. Whenever you create anything, you just have to wait for approximately 2 to 4 minutes, after which it will all start to load up. So right now, let's just hold on and wait for some time. It is already enabled. The status happens to be in progress. And the reason is it will take some time for it to actually come up. Let's wait till that. Now that it is all deployed, if we go to our domain over here and we refresh it, we will see everything should look good. It is still pointing to my website over here, and it says HTTPS also. And if I click here, it says connection secure also. But there is one last thing left to do. Why will I ever want to open a website with this complex name .cloudfront.net? Let's go and fix that. As you would have guessed, the answer lies inside our route 53. So let's go for route 53 here. Go to our hosted zone. Click on the domain name. Go here on my record name and edit record. Then go to your, instead of pointing it to global accelerator, now find to CloudFront distribution, in which case anyhow you will see North Virginia. choose your distribution and click on save. Now in some time, if you go and open your domain name, it should go and automatically take you to that HTTPS page. You see over here, if I open http:// and this, it will automatically forward me to HTTPS, which means now that thing is happening via your CloudFront network. This is the complete way, or if even if someone opens like that, or if someone opens it like this, it should show your complete HTTPS endpoint, and that is what is expected when you are working in security in case of AWS. First, instance is secured via the keys in KMS. Data at rest is encrypted. Second, data in transit is also encrypted. Third, snapshots are also encrypted. Let's go and do one last thing. Whatever data I have inside my buckets, let's go and encrypt that also. But right now, for that sake, I don't have any data inside my bucket, isn't it? So what I will do now is I will go and take a backup. So I do know that I do have my backup inside this snapshot, but there might be a requirement in which I don't want to put the data inside snapshot, rather I want to put it inside a bucket. So how to do that? We are going to talk about that now. Now, before we go over there, let's go and have a look at few of the security services inside AWS. So certificate manager you have seen anyhow. Key management service you have seen anyhow. Let's go for certain things like inspector. Inspector basically is going to go. Okay, and also let's put the region as Mumbai because my instance is available in Mumbai. So inspector basically goes and runs services inside your EC2 instance and tries to figure out if there is something which is not secure or there is any recommendation from AWS for that. For that, you just have to go and click on get started over here. I want to run this, yes, and click on run once or runs weekly. So let's say run once over here and the assessment will actually start, and click on OK. Now everything is done, you can go back. So right now, let's say cancel, and it will all show up over here. The assessments, important findings, and whatever issues or any recommendation that AWS has will all start to show up over here. Okay, that can be for assessments which are running. So right now, because it would have started, it will take some time. For any targets which are there, so I do have a target over here and this will be running over here. Then if I have any templates or if I have any run, it will all start to show up over here. That will take some time. So let it run right now and we will come back to this page shortly. For that, you can go to findings also, and if any case any problem is there, you can click on findings over here. Okay. So let inspector actually run. In the meantime, let's say I have some things known as GuardDuty also. So a GuardDuty can be used if you have to monitor that is anything is inside your VPC. So let's say it will go and have a look at your logs, your VPC flow logs, and your multiple logs of your AWS account to see that if there is any suspicious activities. In that case, AWS is going to advise you. For that, you can click on just get started over here, and you just have to go and enable your GuardDuty. Once you do this, AWS will automatically start showing you if at all there is a issue, and it will all show up over here. That will happen for your S3 bucket also. That will happen for your list of whatever trusted IP list you have over here, and that will happen at your account level also. Now, this service is very important because in real time, you will have some communication with AWS. So let's say that you are working in an organization and people from that organization obviously will be going and accessing AWS So those IPs shouldn't be considered as a suspicious activity. In that case, you just have to go over here and you have to give the IP address or whatever the file is there. So what happens over here is you don't directly go and give the IP address. Rather, you go and give a plain text file over there and that you upload it inside AWS. Okay, so the thing important over here at this moment is to go and create a S3 bucket. So first of all, let's go to our S3 bucket over here and create a bucket for my account, and that account will have the list of the trusted IPs actually. Okay, so let's go and create a bucket and let's call it something like my active IP address and click on create bucket. So click on creation date and sort it alphabetically like that over here. My active IP address. In this, you will have to go and create a file, and that file should have the data of your bucket and give the IP address. So let's say I have to give my IP address. So I type my IP address. My IP address is this. I just go and save it over there. Okay, and save it. And let me save it on the desktop and say valid IP address.txt. And once it is saved over here, let's go and just go and upload it to my bucket now. Here and click on upload. So that's the bucket, or that's the object actually. Now, if you want to give the access, that's your object URL here. Go back to your GuardDuty, add the IP list. So let's call it as valid IP address. Give the location of that file, say that it's a plain text file, and click on I agree and click on add list. At this point of time, this particular IP address is now set to be active, and you can set a secured communication with your AWS account. Now, by the same logic, if you want to go and block certain IP addresses, you can always go to your threat list, and the same way like we did for the active IP address, you can do it for the threat list also. In this case, any malicious IP address, AWS is automatically going to go and block those IP address. Same thing can happen for your S3 also. In this case, if at all AWS detects that there is a problem, you can do that. By that same logic, you can also do it for any third-party account also. It will be built for you, but they can go and access your GuardDuty account and get a list of the resources. Now, why will you want to do that? The answer is that in this case, multiple when you work on AWS, it can be a multiple account AWS. So there are 2 or 3 accounts which are combined together in that case. So in that case, data sharing will happen via VPC peering. But however, your data which is inside your AWS account and other accounts will also have to see. So for that, you can go to accounts over there. So now if AWS figures out that there is any problem over there, AWS is going to tell you. Okay, so that's your GuardDuty, and if at all there is any problem, it will go and show up over here. Now, because I have added one IP address only, and it is only me who is going and doing it as of now, you don't see anything over there. But in real time, if at all people are accessing it, you will start to see it over here. That's your GuardDuty, by the way. Okay, GuardDuty. Now going back to my inspector where I had gone, and if at all there was any findings, it will all start to show up over here. This thing takes time because it is going and running the complete thing inside my EC2 instance, and which is going to last for almost an hour or something. So if you go and have a look at it after an hour or something, you are actually going to see that. Okay, so if in case there is a problem with your EC2 instance, it will show you over here also. Now when I say that any problem with your EC2 instance, and if you want to secure your account, we had also talked about a service known as CloudTrail. So CloudTrail basically is the service that is going to monitor that which user is accessing what all resources inside your what all AWS accounts. Okay. So anything that the user is doing will all show up over here. Let's take an example of that. I click on the sidebar, I click on event history, and it is going to tell me that from last so much time, how what all people are trying to access that. So if you see over here, I had a user root which was going to CloudFront, and if you remember, I had deleted a CloudFront entry. That is why it says delete distribution. Then I had a EC2 instance which was being created by my account. Then before that, okay, let's start from here. I had created the key. So let's just compress it here. I had created the key, the alias, then I created a volume, then I deleted a volume, then I went for a ACM certificate, then I went and created the snapshots, then I created the image. From that image, I went and created the instance. From there, inside that instance, I encrypted it using a key. From there, I created the health check, then the load balancer, then I modified it. Then I created an application load balancer for which I had the security group, and then I created the listener grant. Whatever things basically you are doing inside AWS will all start to show up over here. And more important than that, if anyone is working on your AWS account, it will all show up over here. Let's take an example of that. I click on this particular event. By the way, anything that you are doing inside your AWS account at this very moment is an event. You creating CloudFront is an event. You deleting CloudFront is an event. You creating an instance is an event. You deleting instance is an event. Everything is an event. So if at all I have to test that, okay, who actually did this in the first place? Let's click on that particular event over here, and it tells me this actually happened from this particular IP address, which is 122.167.85.117. If I go back to my IP address and I click over here, that is also my IP address at the moment, which means CloudTrail, I can be assured that these things actually came from my IP address only. By that same logic, if you remember, I had also set the entries inside my service inside this. So I had told that if at all you have to go and you have to give the IP, this is the IP from where it will automatically go and accept any entry or request from that particular IP. But the issue with your CloudTrail is that CloudTrail is going to go and save the data only for the last 90 days, 90. What if you need to log more amount of data inside CloudTrail for auditing purpose or for whatever reason you might think of? The thing is, in this case, you are going to go and create your own trail. By that logic, if you are going to create a trail, it means it is going to go and save the data inside some location inside AWS. And more than often, whenever you are working on AWS, and if you have to save any data inside AWS, you end up inside S3 itself. So if these logs are going to be saved somewhere, for sure it is going to be S3. Let's test it out. I can click on create trail over here and give a name to this trail. Okay, this is when you are trying to do a quick trail create, in which case AWS will automatically save it inside this particular bucket. Let's test it out. I go to create trail, and this is the S3 bucket which has automatically been created for me. To confirm this is indeed the bucket, let's go to our S3 bucket over here. Let's go to the console over here, and I see 68 buckets. If I refresh it, I will see one more bucket coming up, and on the top is this bucket which I see created some time back, few seconds back. Now in your case, you might be having a reason that, okay, I don't want to save the data over here. Rather, I want to save the data inside a different bucket. And why will you actually want to do that? We will come to that very shortly. But right now, what I want to do is I don't want to save the data inside this bucket for whatever reason it is. I want to save the data inside a different bucket. So for that, let's go back to our CloudTrail, and you see over here something as trail. So click on create trail over here. And now if you see, so there are two ways. First, if you click a trail from here, this is a quick create. Okay, so you can do that also, or you can go and put trail over here. So let's put it as log all events. And this has to be a new S3 bucket, or you can use the existing bucket, in which case the data goes inside this particular bucket. Okay, you might also create a bucket, by the way. If you want, you can also put the data inside a location. So let's call it like trail hyphen logs, in which case the data will be kept inside this particular thing, Ankit Feb 2021, inside the folder trail hyphen logs, inside AWS logs, inside the account ID. And one interesting thing, I can use the key, not the new key, rather existing key. And what key? What I had created some time back, key hyphen one. So at every step, remember, we are encrypting the complete thing, making it as secure as possible. If you want, you can also go for CloudWatch logs over here. And this again will be there and these logs will be created. So if you don't want, you can disable it. It depends on you, and click on next. Now, what type of events you want? I want to go and put every event over there. Okay, so whatever events are there, I want to go and put every event, and you click on next over here. And if everything is good, you click on create trail, which in case is going to go and create a new trail for you, and that trail is going to give you the access. Now at this point of time, it gives you a error over here. AWS KMS key policy does not grant CloudTrail sufficient access, and there's a reason for that. So let's go back right now and encrypt it via this key, and we will come back to this and understand that why was the access not given to it. Okay, so let's go to previous again. And in this case, let's go and take a new key over here, and you can give a key name. So let's call the key name as key hyphen 2 over here, and next, and next. Okay, let's remove this first of all and click on create tray. Now at this point of time, you are going to see that the key trail has been created, insights is also enabled, and that is the bucket where my logs are going. But if you remember, there was a error over there, and that error was, it said that CloudTrail didn't have access to that particular key. And what was the reason for that? For to understand the reason better, let's go back to our key management service, or KMS. Now here the concept is that whenever you have to go and access any service of AWS, you need the access for that. So you need to go and create a user. The user will have their own ID and password, and you can go and give the user access to any service. Or if any AWS service has to go and access any other AWS service, in that case, they need the access or the permission. How to give that permission? Let's see. So for that, you click on create a key over here. You give a key name, and let's go and put this name as key hyphen 3 and click on next over here. And you see this administrator who can use it. Here you will see multiple things coming up, including your CloudTrail. So CloudTrail can actually go and access that. You could have also done over here CloudTrail. Next, this has to be used by whom? You could have gone and added CloudTrail. And next. And if you click on finish, this key over here that you have created. Okay, remember one thing, whenever you create the key, it doesn't show up like that. So now it will show up. So whenever you create the key over here, this particular key will now have access to CloudTrail. This was what was missing in the previous example. So I didn't give the access. That is why it gave me the error that I don't have the access to that particular key. Okay. So going back right now, let's go and have a look at my trail. So I have two trails. One is a management event, which was the default one. Then I created one. This one is not required because I am saving both the things. So not required. Anyhow, it is going to this particular bucket over here. So whatever I am doing inside AWS now is going to be securely logged inside a key of my choice forever. Also, I told you that when you were doing this, there was one thing in which you will need to save the data to this particular bucket. And why will you actually want to do that? The reason for that is, let's go to this bucket first of all. This particular bucket. What if someone goes and deletes my bucket? In which case, the entire data inside this bucket is all gone. Which means my trail-logs folder, which has my AWS logs folder, which has my account ID, which has CloudTrail, which is in US East 1, inside year, month, date, and these all things are all gone. Let's have a look at any one of them. Click on that account, click on open, and you will see multiple data. Now, actually, this might look very difficult what this is, but this is actually nothing but JSON data. So if you want, you can just go and beautify the JSON data. So if you go and open the JSON beautify, let's go and paste the whole thing as it is over here and just click on beautify. And now you will start to see things. It happened for this account ID. Source IP was this. Go down. Someone tried to do a bucket ACL from this IP, which was me. Keep on going down. You did a API call for this user for this particular this, and this was the IP, and they tried to do it in US East 1. So basically, whatever you are doing now is being logged inside AWS, inside your US East 1. Now, by the way, US East 1 is only because now in some time you will see more folders will start to show up over here, like India's AP South 1, year, month, date, and these are the logs. Okay. So let's take any one of them and click on object action open, and then the same thing. So it takes time in replicating for all the regions. That is why it shows up like that. But eventually it will show you everything or all the regions. So let's go to beautify again. This, and click on beautify. At this point of time, it is showing you data. So you tried to see this bucket, then you went and tried to see this bucket, get public access for which one, this particular thing, and whatever things you have done over here. Okay. So in short, CloudTrail is now going to show you everything inside this, or whatever you have done or you are trying to do. So the more you actually wait, you will see all the regions of AWS will start to show up over here. But what if someone goes over here and deletes the bucket straight away? It means everything that is there will have to be deleted. First of all, you can go for the empty bucket and then you can do that. But what if someone does it? You don't want that to happen in the first place. So first of all, there are two things. If someone is deleting the bucket, you should know. Second, even if you know and they deleted the bucket, the data is still gone, which you don't want. So in this case, what do you do? Let's take the first example. If someone is trying to delete the bucket, you want to be informed about that. That yes, a deletion of the bucket did happen. For that, you can go to a new service of AWS known as CloudWatch. Or instead of CloudWatch, you can directly go EventBridge. Both are the same thing only. So let's have a look at both of them. The thing inside CloudWatch, what we want to see is something known as an event. So you should remember that we said that creating a bucket is an event, deleting a bucket is an event. So for that, we will go to our events over here, which now has been renamed as EventBridge. Okay, so either you open EventBridge or you go and do it from here. It's the same thing only. Fine. So anyhow, let's go to EventBridge only directly. Click on create rule and give a rule over here. Let's say delete or event hyphen bucket hyphen deleted. Give a description. This event will trigger when the bucket has been deleted. Okay. And this can be for an event, what event, service, what service, AWS service, which service, S3, and what inside S3, bucket level operation, And what in bucket level operation is someone does a delete bucket. Okay, if someone does a delete bucket, AWS should inform you by going to this particular topic, whatever topic you have created. So it will basically go and inform you if someone does a delete bucket. So you will anyhow know that, okay, this bucket was deleted. But then more than us knowing that the bucket has been deleted, we want to recover the data of that deleted bucket. Or rather, let's not give anyone access to delete bucket itself. But what if someone gets access and they still delete the bucket? For that reason, let's go to our bucket and let's go to management and let's put a replication rule. If you see, the entire data anyhow is being replicated to this particular bucket over here. So I don't have to worry because the data is automatically going inside this particular bucket. Okay, but what if, so if you see over here, all the data will start to show up over here whenever it was done. So all these things, so if you remember inside my this, I had trail logs, same I see over here also, same I see AWS logs, my account ID, CloudTrail, and all the regions, which means this should also show up inside my primary bucket. This is my CloudTrail bucket. Okay, CloudTrail bucket has various things. What are they? They have trail logs, they have AWS logs, account ID, CloudTrail, and all of these regions. Same thing is being shown up inside this bucket also. So this is how replication of the buckets work. So whatever data is inside one bucket can automatically be replicated to the next one. Now in this case, you might be having a question that, okay, I know that the bucket is replicated, which means whatever is inside this goes inside the next bucket. But if someone can delete this bucket, they can also go and delete the next bucket, isn't it? If I can somehow go and select this, I can also go and delete this bucket also. So the answer to that is, when you replicate a bucket, you can do it inside the same account also, and you can do it across a different account also. Now, if someone can go and delete the data of your bucket in account 1, they don't have access to account 2. That is how you can protect the data. Let's go and fix that. For that, you just have to click on metrics over, management over there. You just have to go and create another replication rule. So let's put the name as, let's say, replicate to next account, and all the objects in another account. Here you will give the account ID of that person. How to know the account ID? Click here and that's your account ID. This, just give their account ID over there and their bucket name, and even change the ownership, which means at max what someone can do is delete the data from your bucket. They don't have access to the next account, neither do they have access to the next account's bucket. So they anyhow cannot go and delete the data from that bucket. This is how you work on security of your bucket. And how and why do you want to save the bucket? Because entire things that are happening inside your AWS account via your CloudWatch event is going inside that bucket. And because it is going inside that bucket, you can know what happened at what point of time from what place and what all operations they did. This is how you secure your operations at your account level. Okay. So this is how you can go and do that. Going back, I see all my keys over here, key 1, key 2, and key 3. These key I had created, which are saved inside my KMS or key management service over here. Now by that logic, you also have some things known as GuardDuty, which we have seen. Now let's go back to our GuardDuty. And we had selected the IP addresses over here. So right now, AWS is telling me that there is no problem with your AWS account right now. If at all there is, it will show you over here. The list is still there. The S3 protection is all active. So in case if there is some problem, AWS is automatically going to tell you. And if you go to your accounts, you have not mapped it to any account. However, if you want, you can do that. Finally, GuardDuty usage, it is automatically telling you that how much are you actually using it. Now, if you see S3 data event is telling for this bucket also and this bucket also. And the reason for that is this bucket data is automatically replicated to this data or this bucket. So bucket one is replicating to this one. That is why you see these two buckets on the top. Third, you have this bucket, which anyhow was created by AWS automatically. So that's the GuardDuty for you. Okay. Now, if you want any other service, you can also go to, for example, let's say Security Hub. Security Hub is one-click solution. You just go to Security Hub over here. AWS will automatically go and enable the services and tell you if at all there is a problem with any of your AWS services. Also, if you want, you can go and create the next person as the admin, like we created in our S3 bucket, where the owner of that particular bucket was the next account. So you can go and do that also by going here and just going to delegated administrator and giving the administrator ID over there. So that is also a way to do that. Okay, now let's go and see one more thing over here, something known as AWS config. So what we have done, we can encrypt the data inside REST via KMS while it is moving via ACM. We know that there is GuardDuty, which is automatically telling you, and if at all there is a problem with your account, and you have also given the list of the IP addresses. Apart from that, you also have something as config over here, where it is having a repository of entire resources that are being used at the moment. If any resource is non-compliant, it will show up over here. What do I mean by not compliant? Let's have a look. Let's go and create a rule over here, which can be for any of the services. For example, let's go back to our domain that we had created. So ankitsaxena.live. This certificate over here, I click on certificate. This certificate will expire on 5 April 2022. So next year, basically, it will expire. But if and how is AWS going to tell me that this actually expired? For that, you have various forms like this. So you can have a AWS certificate expiration check. You click on next over here. You can give a name to this. So let's give the domain name over here. Hyphen expiry. Description. Okay, and AWS is automatically going to go and check it for you for whatever duration you say, 1 hour, this hour, 24 hour, whatever it is. It can be for all changes, it can be for that particular resource or whatever you have. If you click on next now over here and you add the rule, in this case, AWS is going to tell you if at all there is a problem with your account or with your service. Now, because this day to expiration certificate has been created very recently only, that is why it goes and tells you that, okay, it is not possible right now. However, if you want, you can go and create your own certificate or own errors or own events over here also. For that, just go to your AWS config and either go to your resources or to your rules. Let's have a look. Okay, so these are my basic rules which are there. Okay, so we had created various roles, like let's say role 1. Okay, now if you select that particular role over here, you can apply a rule to that role. What does it mean? Either a custom rule or a AWS managed rule. AWS managed is over here, custom is over here. If you click on next now, you can apply whenever any changes are happening inside that particular role. In short, for anything that is happening inside AWS, you want to go and check that out. For example, EC2 instance is deleted or S3 is deleted. That you can do via your events inside your CloudTrail also, or you can do it via your events inside CloudWatch or something known as EventBridge also, or you can have it from your AWS config also, where ideally it should show you if at all any resource is having any issues. It will show you that. Okay, going back to AWS over here, you can also see certain things like your artifact, which is going to show you for any contracts, or if you have signed any agreement with AWS, it is all going to show up inside your artifact over here. Okay,